Here's to you, dear listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Metal Gear Monday's Revengeance, where you'll find your favorite conversations around Metal Gear and Kojima-related content delivered to you through tactical podcast action. I'm your host, Warren Minix, and with me, as always, is a double agent from the CIA, Chris Hampton. How we doing?
What's up, y'all? I just, they call me a sleeper agent, I guess. I'm awake and ready for the mission.
I love Sleepy Chris. I can't wait for this.
Sleepy time.
And
Sleepy time.
yeah, I love it. And Tori is actually on special assignment from the Department of Defense as of right now.
Yes.
So before we roll into everything, I will throw out there, we're going to go all the way to the end of the game. So this is our last story episode for the season. So we're going to hold off on like the overall final thoughts. We actually had talked about this well before Tori was unable to make this particular episode, but we weren't going to talk about like our total overall thoughts on the end of the game. We're going to hold that until we get to the listener response episode. So if you guys can, June 25th is the absolute latest you can put in a listener response. Ideally, the email is the best. Contact the Metal Gear Mondays is the best way to get out there. So if you guys could send to that email and label it what you guys need as far as the listener response episode for that. We've gotten a bunch in already, so thank you for everyone who has. So we're going to go through the end of the game. We got a few boss fights to discuss and the rest of this story. So do you have anything else to add, Chris, until I drop our patron that we're going to shout out? Is there anything else you want to add before we move on?
You know, I'm just happy to be here, and let's hit it.
I love it. All right, so we got our patron shout out. So our patron for this particular episode is... Oh, there it is. Nice. Thank you.
There's a little Foley for you.
Yeah. Boy Pussy 69420.
Boy Pussy.
So yes, Boy Pussy 69420. You are the man. And BOI. So just so we have that. And Pussy as in Pussay. You are the man. Thanks a ton. Make sure we're talking to you in Discord, because I love meeting new patrons, and learning people's real names is like one of my favorite things to do in the Discord, because everybody has silly names and stuff in their Discord handles. But you're the man, dude. A proper shout out to Boy Pussy 42069.
Here's to you, Boy Pussy.
And cheers, my man. Cheers.
Warren, are you drinking Kool-Aid?
So I have a Fiji artesian water,
Yeah,
and put a little
water.
Put a little flavor, in it, and maybe a little something extra to give it a little zip for tonight.
All right,
man. I'm ready. I think we get started on our final story episode. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's bring this mission home.
So we left off where we had defeated Metal Gear Raxa, knowingly killing Elisa/Ursula, and Jonathan has sacrificed himself in the name of Big Boss. So we are literally hard cut. Jonathan has died, and now we need to exact revenge, stop this plot. We learn that there is another Metal Gear. The Metal Gear we just defeated was a prototype, or not the full practicing model, which is not great. So Intel suggests that we go to a power station, which is just south of the ravine. Now, I only brought this up because if the game had more maps like the ravine earlier on, we had talked about a couple of good maps. We talked about the town, and there was like a couple of interesting places, but the ravine is actually like pretty vertical and a pretty large map, and we have to get through it. We find our way into the station. We have to get to the switchboard because we don't have a ton of explosives. So if we have a few calculated explosives at the switchboard to cut the power, which would then let us know and break into where they're holding the Metal Gear Raja, the proper one. What did you think of this whole plot/map of the ravine and the power station?
I mean, it was sad to lose our boy Jonathan. He's been with us since the beginning. I know all of us have had very sentimental attachments to our dear boy.
Yeah, Jonathan was the man.
He was, and he went down like a true champ, trying to save the boss. And that's got to be a pretty heavy emotional weight to carry for Snake.
Yeah.
All these men losing their lives for him, you know? But so that was pretty cool. Then the MacGuffin part of like, oh, actually, that's not the big bad. The other big bad is. It's like, okay, well, the game. It's almost like a near thing, you know, where the game doesn't really start until you beat the game.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your Metal Gear is in another castle.
Yeah. It's like Metal Gear Portable Ops Plus mode. Secret boss.
I love it.
Yeah, to get like ending E, which is the real ending or what. I don't know.
It's a lot. It's a lot in Nier, definitely.
Yeah. And I guess it's okay here because it's the boss fights are probably the most standout part of the game from a gameplay perspective, and where you get like the biggest break from the sneaking part and the like dragging bodies around. So I'm not really ever going to complain about the boss fights in this game. I welcome them.
Cool.
Yeah.
So as far as this ravine map, though, because I actually like the sneakiness of this particular map, because there is a lot of guards between the ravine and the power station. It's got to like climb through and shimmy across. There's the bridge you got to get across to get into the building, and it's a lot of that. If the sneaking that you were sort of discussing was more like this, I don't know if it would have elevated it per se. Maybe it would have been a little too much early in the game to be this, I guess, involved. But it sort of really felt like playing like a Metal Gear Solid 3, I guess, because that would be the closest to the engine / like timeline of playing the game. It felt pretty good. Like, it felt right. It was a great map, very big and open, but also it had a lot of familiar places we had been and a lot of places to hide, and like we really had to map out, where the hell is that guy that keeps finding me? I like that stuff too. But yeah, I'm glad you like boss fights, because there's gonna be a lot of them in this story episode.
We're about to do a gauntlet.
We're gonna a gauntlet, a rogues gallery here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to your point, yeah, the verticality of the ravine area is pretty cool, and it is you do have a bit of familiarity with the space when you go back into it. So it's sort of like you've mastered the gameplay by this point, and you get to really do some neat, nifty tricks. That's always the fun part of any game, right? Like where you finally you got the gameplay down pat, and you can like do some movie star shit on the screen.
Right, exactly. And you don't need to have like a machine gun. Like you can do it with the tools you've had since the beginning. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So story-wise, we find out, so we get to the Red X, which is the switchboard, but we can't just drop any regular explosive. They claim it's better to have a time detonator because we'd only have 5 minutes, something like that. So now that we can choose when we ignite the detonator, then we can use that 5 minutes to get in. And as soon as we drop the charge, we see that Null, we go into a dope cutscene, and Null is losing his shit. He has not completed his mission. Why is Snake alive? All that kind of stuff. He's killing everyone that's in his path. And he essentially is doing this like whole, why do you choose to live? Like, what do you bring to the table? What makes you so special? And he wants Snake to answer. It's not that Null needs to know. It's very weird. But this is where they finally drop the bomb that not only has Snake known who Null has been, I guess, after seeing him, but it's Frank Yeager. It is Gray Fox, Cyber Ninja, from the jump, and he knew him as a child soldier in Mozambique. And I'll admit on this, obviously in the research and playing the game, but I didn't realize that Frank Yeager, I knew the Yeager part was like a nickname because he was a hunter, is what they called him. But I didn't realize that Frank wasn't his actual first name. They called him the Frank Yeager is the Frank Hunter because he was such an upfront little boy when it came to his training or when he was there in Mozambique. I never knew that until playing this again. I don't know how I missed that he wasn't like Frank Jones and they just started calling him Frank Jaeger. It's a full code name. So before we get into the fight, what do you think of this cutscene?
I think that this is kind of the first time that we see Gray Fox / Null / whatever, since he's being crushed by that Metal Gear Rex, right?
Right.
And it's an interesting parallel to like that Cyber Ninja cutscene where he's in the hall, you know, in Metal Gear Solid 1, you're walking up and it's just gritty, gruesome, and a little foreboding, right? I think this is, from my perspective, a bit of a callback to like what witnessing what went on in that hallway might have been like. That's
true. That's a great little piece because he's clearly capable. We've known that since we've known who Gray Fox is.
Oh, he's
so
violent.
We know that he can slaughter everyone. Right.
He's a violent mother.
Dude, he's awesome. I love Gray Fox.
Yeah. Also, like, okay, so I didn't know that the Frank thing was like, you know, the word Frank was his name.
Right. I didn't know either. I really didn't until this time.
Frank, like Franklin, Joseph Jaeger or whatever. But it's so funny to me how important names are in Metal Gear, right?
Yeah.
Especially like coming from a place where people are named Jim Bob and Bubba. Like, not a lot of thought is put into a person's name, it seems, really. But here it's like, oh my God, this stuff is cemented in the stars almost. It's like your name is the prophecy of who you are.
Right.
It's weird.
And yet so straightforward. So frank, as it were.
Frank. Yes. Well, let me be frank.
Man. Exactly. So yeah, outside of the music being super ominous during that like 5-minute timer that's hitting us, we get into our second fight with Null.
Yep.
And what I'll throw in there, we already talked about verticality because they're starting to really open up the maps. And this is pretty noticeable too from the first map that we fought Null into this. But I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just, it seems like the same fight. He's supposed to be, I would have thought he was going to progress in difficulty, but at this point I was able to like exploit, when you get close to him, he does like that dope like spin with his sword or whatever you want to call it. And you can just roll past that and just clip him with whatever you're trying to kill him with. And it was a lot easier in this particular map. But I also wanted to like get a feel. So I played it where I didn't do that just to see how he reacts and some of the, you know, the word choices and dialogue. It's a pretty cool fight. I like the look of it. What do you think of this fight?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's the old Indiana Jones thing of like, don't bring a sword to a gunfight.
Yep.
So it's not that difficult of a fight, especially when you're Snake and you're packing an arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Which by this stage in the game, you are packing an arsenal.
Sure. Yeah, everybody. Your whole team could be packing an arsenal at that point.
Yeah. So it's not challenging. It's almost like this is just sort of like a cameo of a character to like give a little bit of fan service. You know?
Yeah. Especially after a drop that he's Gray Fox. I wasn't expecting a second Null fight when I had first gone through the game. I figured, oh, cool, Null. And he's going to be like, you know, once you know he's Gray Fox, it's like, and I'll catch you in the next game. You know what I mean? I really thought that's what was going to happen. And it's not the case. You know, it was cool. And again, you can do the shoot between reloads, you know, the normal stuff. Ocelot's taught us well for so many years on how to do a proper boss fight when it comes to that kind of stuff. But he's cool, man. And when we beat him, it's a nice little reunion. Again, we talk about this every time we do this, but the character stuff is pretty good. It didn't feel cheesy. They sort of have a recognition of each other, and Noel's part of the crew. He literally comes back with Snake. I mean, he might be a little defeated, but we got him. Like, we just took like their ace in the hole. Like, that's crazy that we got Noel by the end of this game. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fun. It makes no sense at all, but it's fun.
Exactly. It's why he shows up in Metal Gear.
Yeah. Right?
The OG Metal Gear. Yeah, so now we have found out where the Metal Gear is being held. And they have a silo. So Intel gets us to the silo. And I don't know about you, the one thing I did notice is the music is like, we're at the end of this game, baby. Like, it is boom, boom, boom. It's got that crazy, like, It's super intense. But we got the ramp and the silo. Now the silo is a map I think personally, I played like 4 to 5 times just story wise, moving back and forth. So I knew exactly what to do. Like it was really fantastic. I really felt like I got like this game is mine. And there's some cool platforming for the game. You know, I don't want to compare it to other platformers, but we get into the complex. Again, Metal Gear taught me well. Chaff grenades. You can hide from every camera pretty easily. You get your keys to get to the elevator, and we all know what happens on the elevator. So just before we talk about that boss fight, did anything stand out to you when it came to the silo before we roll into the next boss fight? Because it is quick. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it's super fast. The game has picked up so much pace by this point that you're pretty much on rails and just being rushed. This is the climax. So, yeah, not much to say, but I do appreciate how like quick they pick up the pacing here.
Yeah. All right. So we get onto that elevator, we head down, and we get a pretty interesting cutscene with the boss fight. Now this, we did kind of pick on him a little bit when it came to the bad guys episode, but Cunningham ends up on one of those like hover things that were in, I guess they were previously established in Metal Gear Solid 3. He's got his own that's like pretty armored, which is pretty cool. But there is... Yeah, exactly.
Think of those old commercials. Do you remember those?
I do remember those. Do you have the one that also, like, you could pull the piece up that attached to the thing to let you go up the stairs, too? So you could, like, click the thing. You could, like... I love that. But I do remember the literal hover round and a rascal. Those are the two.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, they can do whatever you can do.
Hover around.
Oh, that's amazing. But you're right. It does kind of look like that.
Yeah.
So we picked on Cunningham a little bit. The main thing was because he did the whole... He wasn't like a double agent or anything, but this is where we learned that he actually has been working for the Department of Defense this whole time. So he has had his own motivations, unrelated to Fox, unrelated to the CIA. And it was all about how, and we did pick on this, he has like the bum leg. He literally is missing a leg, and there are cyborg ninjas and shit. Like how he really felt like he just sort of got left to the wind. So we went to the Department of Defense, who he thinks is going to take care of him. Does a lot of exposition, talks about a bunch of stuff. And the thing that was interesting is Big Boss was planted to be there, to be the hero, and make Gene launch Metal Gear. Like they planned on Metal Gear being launched, and he was planted. Like they needed him to be in there. And he tries to say like, hey, join me, Snake. We're going to do this themselves. And I don't know. I thought it was a pretty good offer, but Snake says he's fighting for himself. And a little cheese, but I don't know. I kind of liked it, especially after losing Jonathan. We just got Null back. We sacrificed Elisa and Ursula. It feels pretty good before the boss fight. I mean, does any of that make sense to you? I know we kind of picked on it in the character focus, but did this surprise you that Cunningham was like, he was on his own journey this entire game, and that Snake was a plant?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I guess like this is the first time this idea has really been presented in the game, of like, you know, there are parallel events happening outside of the perspective of the player, which is rooted in Boss's experience, right? During this insane Hirayama. But for a game where you're actually, I think the first time in Metal Gear series, you're focused more on collecting, almost like Pokemon, these different dudes to like outfit your crew. It's nice to like get more story material behind those characters.
Sure.
It really makes them feel like more of a part of your crew, or like more of a foil to what you're doing. You know, the example with Jonathan, for example, like I don't think Jonathan, that event where Jonathan sacrifices himself would have the impact that it has in the game if you hadn't built that relationship with that character by playing with them.
I agree. Yeah, and Cunningham, we like I said, we talked about him, but he's compelling. His voice acting is really good. He makes a very good impression. He screams bad guy. but
Yeah.
he's good. He did do the whole, you and I aren't really all that different. The obvious thing that happens in every villain. But yeah, I agree. I thought the story wise, it makes sense. It's obvious why he's so compelled to I guess achieve his victory that he's looking for. But now let's talk about the boss fight, because it is a little comical. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. Him flying around. You're on an elevator moving, and I don't know. It just you throw. I threw grenades or flashbangs or chafes, anything that would get him to like drop his little elevator thing down. Shoot him. Pop, pop, pop. Rinse and repeat. I don't know. It looked cool. Like I did like the moving background, like all constantly moving because you're on you're on the descending elevator. But outside of that, oh, he does wield a Davy Crockett. I will give him that.
Yeah.
What'd you think of this fight, though? And I don't want to like poo-poo on it, but I don't know. It didn't seem as mobile as I wanted.
Yeah, I think it was a little stale after a while. I don't really like the encounters in this game where you're fighting against things that are flying around you.
Yeah.
It feels like a really unfair advantage to enemies because of how clunky the controls are.
Sure.
Especially without that second joystick,
I agree. So what'd you think of his pretty unceremonious death? He just sort of
Oh, yeah.
plops.
It's like just squish, plop, he's gone,
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's a bummer because I like him a lot. And, I mean, they all can't be winners when it comes to the whole... I guess his biggest reveal is he had the dope intro to the game, and he had ulterior motive that does tie in. We'll talk about it when we get to the end of the game, like the end of the game. It really does tie to the motivations that inform the future of the games. So he does have like plot, like juicy, but
Yeah.
I don't know, pretty unceremonious fight. It felt very like just whatever, you know what I mean? I had no desire to like trank him, or I was just like, let's get on with this. Where's the fun fights? I don't know, it just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Well, all right, our boy dies, and we get down to Gene in the control room. So we get to the control room, and this is where I like Gene, and you guys had swayed me the other way when we did the episode. I was high on Gene, and then you guys brought me to like regular
Yeah.
to Gene. I'm lukewarm now. However, I think this is where I was referencing it. Gene now has killed everyone, and we know that he's capable of that. He did the whole, you don't know who the traitor is, and they all kill each other. So clearly he's a sociopath. Whatever gets him to his end is what he wants. But outside, like, this is cool. It's a pretty awesome idea for a boss arena, like just the massive control room for Metal Gear Raja, the true one. But this is where, like, my notes here, man, I have a whole page on, it seems Gene knew everything all the time. He planned to launch the Metal Gear Raja at the Pentagon. So it was never, he wanted to make it look like it was Russian, going on American soil that messes with NATO and the United States, and especially the philosophers, the New World Order. He wants to make the peninsula the Army's heaven to breed the perfect soldier, making him the true successor. And it just felt, I don't know, it was a lot. It was a lot when I was like, oh my God, what is happening? What did you think about this? There was a little bit of rebooting, which we'll talk in a minute, but what did you think of, at the end of the day, Gene's reveal of his real plan?
Yeah, I mean, well, his plan is like this new world order, right? And the philosopher's legacy is the key to that, which is the persisting MacGuffin right now is the philosopher's legacy.
Right.
I don't know. Gene has some big aspirations in his world domination scheme, but I was listening to this when when I was playing through the game and thinking to myself, like, yeah, no, like the Patriots are not going to allow this to happen. Like
you would think,
like
right?
Zero would not allow this to be a thing.
Right, but Zero can't be involved, can he?
Dun dun dun.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Gene has this like big boisterous soapbox moment, but it's clear when he's giving this exposition that he doesn't realize like the part that he's playing in the game
Right.
around the philosopher's legacy. You know, he's seeing his moment and he's going for it, just like Volgan did before him.
Mm-hmm. Well, that whole Volgan thing too. He I don't know if he's throwing shade at the boss. Like this is where they like retcon a slight bit of the MGS3 story. They basically say that it was planned, like the whole thing where Boss told us because Volgan shot the Davy Crockett into Russian soil that informed her plan moving forward. But now he's saying that that was planned. Like Volgan, the whole Volgan decisions he made was also a plan, and kind of throws shade at the boss saying like, you know, you led her to this decision and all that. Like, I don't know. I'm okay with it because Gene is clearly like, he's out. He's off in his own planet now. So he can say and do whatever he wants. It's a little bit of unreliable narrator because that's something I do really like about him is you will listen to him because he has like that parasite thing. So he can alter the history books by just saying what he wants. So I do like that in a sense, but I don't know. It just felt the shade was a little real for the boss. And I just want to make sure I personally say like, don't fucking throw shade at the boss, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's not cool. that's not cool.
That's a line you just don't cross, especially with Snake, you know. Snake very much sees himself as the protector of the boss's legacy, and that's gonna be the source of conflict for a lot of events moving forward in this game. So this is like, I don't know, Gene saying like, telling your mama jokes to Snake.
I mean, it feels like that, right?
Yeah, and he's like, no, you don't do that. You don't tell you don't. That's a line you don't cross about the boss.
Exactly. Yeah, and he's just like, you're a dictator. Like you don't have like a special calling. You're not going to be the savior here. You're just another asshole in a long line of assholes. Like that's just what you're doing. So Gene launches Metal Gear and his little duel. Like I think his exact words are, he takes out both bases of the philosophers by with hitting the Pentagon and Russia. Like he's going to screw over that basically, if you take down both, they're not going to be able to recoup, and he wants to wipe them off the earth. And in a crazy surprise thing, Ursula and Elisa survive. Mm-hmm. They survive the Metal Gear Raja fight. They show up to, I guess, help because now they're both against Gene. And this is where I think like Gene is pretty bomb. She can read thoughts. She's a telepath. She has that ability. She's a psychic. But Gene's reflexes are so fast. I was like, oh shit, it's gonna get real, and the next scene, bam, she's killed. Like he just stabs her dead on the floor. That was pretty shocking. I thought that was actually like pretty like bomb. And they reconfirmed that Big Boss's sons, quote unquote, will both save the world and create Metal Gear and attempt to take the world by force. Like they really like hammer home like Metal Gear Solid 1's gonna happen. Like it's pretty cool. I liked it. Were you shocked that they survived that Ursula Elisa thing? Did you?
Yeah.
Are you?
I was absolutely, because like that was a big explosion. You know, who would live through that?
I guess a telepath that can probably control, maybe protect herself in like a Jean Grey kind of way.
Maybe like there's some Psycho Mantis shit going on.
Yeah,
here, for sure,
definitely. As usual, pretty common in our Metal Gear games.
That's the thing. Is like, what is this like X-Men supernatural layer in Metal Gear games that really just, I don't feel it was a huge part of one. Like Psycho Mantis was.
Yes, I was just going to ask you this. Where do you think it shows up?
It starts in 2, in my opinion.
With Vamp, right? You see the first one, Vamp and Fortune, right? They feel the most. Right, I totally agree. Yeah. And is that an artistic choice, you think? Is it like a Kojima, like, trying to one-up himself in that sense? Because I think that's why, like, 3 and 1 feel so special. 3 had X-Men. I mean, they do control bugs and shit. But I think that's why 1 is still, like, I always find a way to argue back that that's That's my favorite. Like, I don't know. It just feels very. It's more about Shadow Moses and the incident, not the special powers of everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, shit. I guess it's like, I don't know that it's some weird, like, well, we just have to make things interesting, but maybe it was, how do we design interesting boss fights, you know?
Sure.
In the first game, it was a lot of guns and tanks and, like, typical military stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Same for the NES games. And then, you know, now we have, like, people using projectile bees and using
and apparently doing instant transmission.
Yeah.
Or whatever Gene calls it.
Right. Instant transmission, psychic, robot controls.
Mm-hmm. And hyper reflexes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So speaking of instant transmission and crazy reflexes, what do we think of this boss fight? I'll let you start this.
I mean, the fight is really good, you know? This is like sort of a CQC up close, these boss fights with Gene, and I really like that because it feels like mano-a-mano, very fair, level footing, you know?
Sure, definitely.
But other than that, I don't know if they were... It's so funny that he disses the boss, right? He disses the boss right before this, and we get into this fight where he's using like some CQC stuff himself and a knife to in like a way that reminded me of the boss fight from 3 at the end of the game. Because
absolutely,
getting up close with him is really dangerous. You have to like kind of keep your distance and like whittle him down a bit before you go in. And if you rush in, he'll like combo you, and you always just get stuck and whatever. But yeah, for him to like shit talk the boss and then like now face my CQC, he's not that great of a fighter.
Outside of the cool, I like when he throws like 55 knives.
Yeah,
because he has the super crazy reflexes. It looks cool, like it's presented well.
It's like a little bit of like an ocelot fast shooting. But with knives, right? Yeah,
exactly. And I like that it wasn't just another gun. You know, it wasn't like another like ocelot adjacent.
Well, I mean, shit, it's not like they could give him a deck of cards and rip off of Gambit. You know, they had to do something.
I wouldn't put it past them if I'm honest with you.
Get a card.
It'd be amazing. But I'm going to be honest. I know we don't make it as a strategy guide, but my main thing was if I go into like a fight, I do my best to have stun grenades, and they are so helpful. Like you can almost win anyway, as long as you stun him, because he is still a human. Like his reflexes are fast, but a grenade's going to work no matter how fast your reflexes are.
That's true.
So I like that. So yeah, man. So not an unceremonious fight. I like this whole chat. The fight, we beat Gene. And he sort of admits that obviously in his defeat, that Snake, Big Boss, is the true successor. And he basically gives Snake a bunch of money that he amassed to make Armies Heaven. Like he just sort of says, like, here's the ropes, kid. And he does do the whole, well, I already put in the coordinates for the Metal Gear. Like you can't stop it. There's nothing you can do about it. We're past the ending already. My fight with you is to distract you. And it's pretty funny how I was like, oh, okay. And they just shoot a bazooka at it.
That's the answer.
It's not bad. So what do you think about, like, so after all this shit we just said, Gene still sort of saying like, hey, maybe I'm an asshole, but my plan's pretty cool. Like, it's not a bad plan. We should do something like this because aren't you tired of, you know, being a tool of war for someone else, kind of a thing. So I like that. Gives him, and it has nothing to do with the philosopher's money, if I'm not mistaken. It's just all the money he's amassed by being his own thing. So it's like his own sum of money that's probably not accounted for somewhere.
He's got a little checking account. It's been you know, putting 10% of his paycheck in there.
Yeah, slowly building it over time.
Yeah, you know, might have a couple of stocks,
Yeah,
whatever.
Gene's got a pretty diversified portfolio, I would think.
Yeah,
Probably got
but,
some
like,
real estate, you
probably
know.
like blue chip stuff, real solid investments,
Mhm.
nothing risky.
Exactly. Just
Yeah.
slow playing it, but just aggressively slow playing. I totally
Right.
agree. He's a safe guy. He's a safe bet.
Probably owns a lot of Walmart stock.
Yeah.
If I was to think about Mean Gene's portfolio.
Yep. Thinking about recession proof, right?
Yeah.
Able to survive any sort of issue. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Walmart. That's why he invested. So
That's where he bought
we're
those
going to talk to
knives.
Gene about.
He gets a great
we'll
deal
talk
on
to
all
Gene
those
for
knives at
financial advice.
Walmart.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So we blow it out of the sky. It detonates in space, I guess, after everything, and it's pretty cool. Oh, they're watching it free fall. Like, I like that. That was pretty fun, and we're pretty much, nice job. We saved the day, and the CIA director is now doing his own thing, obviously in some undisclosed location, and he's interrupted by Ocelot, which is really the first time we know it's Ocelot. We know Ocelot's in every game, so we're not an idiot. And there's been a secret informant, like, sort of funneling information to Gene and all these other people. So we kind of had an idea. But Adam is the triple spy he's the triple spy for the philosophers. The director has the briefcase. He's got the documents. He's got philosophers' names, the data, where the parts are scattered across the world, like the legacy. And he's prepared to take it to a bunker because Metal Gear was launched in space. So the intent is that no matter what happens, the philosophers would survive if the plan succeeded. They were always going to be able to keep moving on. And Ocelot basically goes like, "Is this everything?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got him." And he just clears the whole room, fucking kills everybody. The line I like, and then I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. He says he destroys them because they stole, quote unquote, and they're not, in line with the spirit of the true patriot. And I kind of like that. That's a pretty good line. So what do you think of the CIA plot with Ocelot towards the end here?
I mean, it makes sense. Ocelot is going to be our sneaky switch agent for the whole series, really. So this is in character for him for sure. I think it's great that Ocelot gets the comeuppance with Gene too.
Sure.
I
agree.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Yeah, and of course, like the Patriot Shadow, whatever. This is like totally setting up for, right? If I have the timeline correct, when this game came out, 4 came out shortly after.
Yep, you are correct.
So we're headed up to like really figure out who the Patriots were, right? Which is, we haven't gotten much information on that since the ending of Metal Gear Solid 2, right? They were a very small piece of Metal Gear Solid 3. Just it was more of a setting up the story, explaining to us what the legacy was, why it's important, and why people are after it. But now we're getting into the meat of like the Patriots themselves, who are setting up this like the next big event, and it's going to change the world, right? Like we're just not going to recognize the world that we come back to after these events.
Yeah, it's good story stuff, which is what we always have been going back to with this. It feels very, especially knowing everything afterwards now, this is cool. Like this is pretty good seeds that are being planted to establish just what the fuck is going on with this story-wise. Because if you go from 3 to 4, it's pretty bonkers. Like, you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, we were in the jungle, now there's like they sound like cows, they have muscle tissue, they're jumping all over. Like, it's just a war zone everywhere all the time.
Getting dropped
by
bipedal cow robots
in that have little whips on them.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to say this here because I know we've all said it, and I think it's like the kitschy thing to say, but Ocelot really does find a way to be a fucking great character in every game. I tried to like challenge myself to be like, what's the weakest performance of Ocelot? And I don't know if I have an answer, because obviously you could say this game, right? But he's in it for such a short time that like you can't really give him crap, and he is monumental in affecting the plot, and he's got great lines, and I love that he's been fucking with everything from the beginning. Like that's Ocelot's cool, man. I really appreciate like what he does in every game. I know that he's like remembered, but everybody's sort of like he's always like the bronze medal in most people's like rankings, but he's really cool, man, and he finds a way to be interesting in every game, and it's just special. And this was the time where I really noticed it, you know.
Ocelot's probably one of the more fun characters to write in this series. If I was a writer, I would have a lot of fun writing him, just because he's so animated, right?
Right.
It's great.
And motivated. Like he has motivation every time you meet him. And again, 3 was the funniest thing, because in 3 he's so different than we knew him. He's this young, you know, hotshot colonel kind of a thing. Like it's nothing like we have seen him in previous games. And it's just interesting. I really like that. And for him to like drop that spirit of the true patriot, we see the seeds are being planted for the Patriots, which we'll learn about later. And so yeah, all is well. Snake makes it out. We have won the day, and the philosophers are not going to be able to pull their bullshit in the future. So we'll learn about future, you know, issues. But Fox's rebellion was covered up, and Campbell, which again, an awesome performance, he confirms that Snake is one hell of a hero. And Snake learns to fight for what he believes in. So this is where we're finally, Snake makes a massive move of not just trying to make mom happy, right? He now trusts himself to make his own. Honestly, in his own way, I can't really vouch for, because we talk about this every season, the will of the boss. I do think when it comes to Snake, the will of the boss for the Snake is for him to stand for what he believes in, regardless of what that is. I do feel like there is some decent closure. He doesn't have to mention her, but you can tell that he has resolve. He has moved forward from, really, this is the last time. I know they're going to bring it up in Peace Walker and things like that, but this was like the real time that he has like post-traumatic boss disorder. You know what I mean?
Post-traumatic boss disorder.
Yep.
What are the symptoms?
Symptoms of that are self-doubt. Probably can't sleep well would be a guess of mine. Probably mood swings would be my guess. Heavy drinking, maybe out dependence on substance.
You think twitchiness, maybe?
I don't know.
Is that why he fidgets with his guns so much?
He could. So, you're right, because maybe the sneaking suit like masks some of that, because it like calms his body down. That's a good point. Yeah, I think that's a thing. But I liked it. It did feel like a way for like, all right, the Snake we knew is getting much closer to the Snake we know in previous games, and it felt pretty logical. It didn't feel forced. It felt like the game was building towards that, and you know, going back what we know about Outer Heaven and all that, we get it. We see why Big Boss is the way he is, and that's pretty bomb. And we see a Fox dossier on Snake's bedside. Is he back? I don't know. We'll see. Gray Fox is a wreck. We have no idea if he'll ever recover.
I mean, we kind of have an idea.
Yeah, I think we have an idea. Is he going to recover?
Yeah, we kind of have an. That's not a true statement. We have the benefit of having been to the future already.
Right, like 3 to 4 games that include him in some way or another.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Like I said, we don't have to do final thoughts as far as like how it involves anything more than what we've discussed. But like as an ending, story bits, everything, how do you feel about the ending of this game?
It's really solid, honestly. Like this game does not waste any of its breath when it's telling its story. I love how right from the silo and the game picks up pace. It carries you right through, which is great for this game, right? Because it's been designed as such a pick up, put down thing up into that point that you really need some sort of like big climactic moment to carry you through the ending and finish the story off. So I'm glad that they decided to get away from like sort of the rhythm, the gameplay loop that you have, to throw a bunch of like boss gauntlets at you and finish out the story in a really strong way.
I like that. Yeah, it's good. Like I said, I think the progression, it feels pretty good. And we've picked apart this game in so many ways, but story was something we always sort of said, that's, you know, and they lean on it. They know it's a strength, and they paid attention to it. And for what it's worth, the design of the game was understood. They had a big challenge. They did. And we'll talk about that when we get to the listener response. But I'm interested to see a few of them. I've read a few of the responses already. There's some fun ones in there, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
So we get to the after credits. We know it's coming, right? Credits roll. We know we're expecting a phone call or something. We hear a phone ring, and Ocelot picks up the phone. We know it's him from the voice, and he's being given like really great intel that even Gene was confused about. And Ocelot is on the phone with his informant. So someone's been giving Ocelot the advantage to what information to feed everybody throughout the game. And he's talking about genes, genome soldiers, creating the perfect soldier. And when they have the ability to do that, they establish the Patriots, which is pretty fucking bomb. Now with the code name chat, they talk about, I think he says something like someone, you know, Null, who shares a code name with yourself, kind of a thing. And we kind of get the vibe. We are aware that Major Zero was basically channeling this information through Ocelot to establish the Patriots. And this here, now we can talk about this because it ties in with Metal Gear Solid 4. I think we can talk about this a little bit. This is pretty cool that this is the game, because I don't remember this. This is the game that establishes that Major Zero is like the big bad for the fucking series at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
At least as far as emotionally. What'd you think of this? I think this is a pretty dope of the call scenes, because there's some good ones. The Mr. President is pretty fucking bomb, but this one's pretty good. Like, I like this. What'd you think about this after credit?
Yeah, I liked it. You know, this is like more hype to me than the Marvel post-credits scenes. So I love the phone call. I don't know if you'd call it like a cold cut or what the term would be. I'm not educated in that way, but yeah, the little almost like a spoiler, setting up like a teaser that's like, oh shit, well, what's gonna happen in next time in the Metal Gear universe? Yeah, these are great little comic-y bits that I feel are just so over the top in the way that they try to like do this Mission Impossible clandestine spy thing and tell that story. But it's perfect. It's kitschy. I love it.
I agree. I know I love them all, but it was kind of refreshing after playing Metal Gear Solid 3, which was like super, not that it was confusing, but Eva was working for the Chinese and she didn't get the right half, so now the other half, like there was a lot of stuff going on. This is pretty cut and dry.
It is.
It's the mystery is who's talking to Ocelot, but they do sort of tell us, like they do, and it's how fucking cool is that the choices they make in Metal Gear Solid 4 story-wise for that ending, and that's the fucking stinger from the previous game. That's fucking cool. Like when you think about it, they set up Zero, and then the next fucking game story-wise, which is the end, quote unquote, of the saga, to turn it into that outro with the end blank blank is Majors, and you're like, what? The big boss shows up. It's cool, man. I got a little goosebumpy about it when I was just like, this is fucking cool. Like, I really dug this.
Yeah, me too. It was awesome. I really loved it.
Yeah, this whole thing justified, like, I don't think we have to argue about canon and all that. We've definitely talked a ton about it in the Discord with the patrons and stuff, but it's stuff like this, it's moments like these where I'm like, it is canon to me. Like, this justified itself completely. This fucking story was awesome. Like, this was fantastic, even if I want to pick apart some of the gameplay, but I can't, if someone were to ask me the story of Metal Gear, I would have to include Portable Ops in my outline, right? Some of the stuff that happens in this, it establishes some pretty fucking big deals. Major Zero is massive, and I know he exists prior, but he is involved starting at Portable Ops, which is like the second in the timeline. Like, it's crazy how long they pay attention to this. That's good writing. I think that's good stuff, and I like that. So before we close out, sorry it's a little shorter, guys, but it was tough to pace this out, and with the boss fights, I tried to make this make sense for everyone when it came to it. I mean, it's still a pretty full ep here, but we didn't want to rush anything or make anything too crazy long and crazy short. But to get through these, I mean, the game really ramped up in pacing for the last like 2 hours of the game. At least in my experience, the last 2 hours were what we just talked about. Do you have any final thoughts that aren't just like to involve conversation? But before we, as far as story is concerned, we are wrapping up Portable Ops. We are through our second game in our long timeline that we have established in this MGMR.
Yeah, Metal Gear Pocket Monster Edition was great. I joke, but you know, it was a great little slice of the Metal Gear universe to play through. And the story, if you haven't played this game, you should check it out just for the story alone.
Definitely.
The gameplay, if you've not played it before, you're going to go back to it. It's going to be dated, and you're going to be thinking that the whole time. But just power through it. And the last 2 hours that we covered in this episode, this alone is worth the price of admission.
Agreed. I totally agree. It's kind of why I like that this is a concise episode, because this is a great, like, if I were to pick our episodes going back, like maybe the opening and the outro would be enough to like just go back. You probably don't have to, re-listen to everything if you wanted to, but I love, this is the stuff that's like really good. And for anybody that was wanting to hear Tori and her thoughts on the ending and all that, trust and believe, guys, when we get to the listener episodes, we will have this out. So we'll be able to make sure that she gets asked the same questions, because we have talked obviously off mic about all this stuff, but I have been going out of my way to not know how everybody feels about the games until we get to recording the episodes, because it makes for more fun of a conversation. So I don't actually know Tori's exact thoughts on how she feels about this game by the time she gets to the end of it. I know how she generally feels about Metal Gear. She tends to be more positive and forgiving of some of faults, but when we get to the listener response, I will make sure that in some way, shape, or form, I want to make sure she gets to answer some of these questions, because I know she wants to answer them. So, yeah, man, we have finished our second game in the long timeline that we have established, and we have wrapped up not only another episode, but another game for Metal Gear Monday's Revengeance. Guys, thank you for listening. 2 seasons down. Wherever you guys are grabbing our stuff, we would absolutely appreciate a rating, a review. Feel free, again, listener responses, to contact at Metal Gear Mondays. That would be a great way to reach out. You're more than welcome to. Our patrons, thank you a ton. Again, we shouted out Boy Pussy for 2069. Thanks again, guys, a ton for the patrons. We are well aware that, even though the world's starting to get a little bit back to normal, it is easier said than done to just be able to have free cash to throw around. And for the community that we do have, thank you so much to all of you that have been here. For as little as $1 a month, you can get into the Discord. We do extra podcasts. We do monthly game club, monthly film clubs, where we do roundtable discussions. We discuss our experiences with the games or films. We have merch that you can grab. You can find us, again, at Patreon at Metal Gear Mondays, which that also is everything for social media except for Twitter. We're Metal Gear Monday. Thanks for the character limit there. But I feel good. This was a great way to end this one. This one didn't feel really drawn out or anything like that. I had a really good time with this. I thought this was going to be like a dark spot in the timeline, and we might have a couple in the future, but I had a good time with this, and I'm like super thankful for still being a host here and even being offered last year or whenever I was been part of this crew. But this was a fun one. I really had a good time, and thank you to everyone who listens. Thank you to the patrons, and thank you, Chris and Tori. But Chris, since you're here, where can people find you on the internet, and what else you got?
You can just go to metalgearmondays.com or hop in the Discord, say hi at Proto Dude. That's gonna be all my gamer tag stuff. And yeah, just instead of checking me out though, you should just get this game and check it out.
I like it. It's a good point. Man's got a point. And yeah, you can find me at Warren Minix across all the things. I am Untaggable Gamer if you're into gamer tags, although I'm not really an online player per se. But yeah, you can catch me in the Discord. I usually do the film stuff, and I talk too much about music, so I have to figure that out, but that's my thing. And yeah, big old thanks to everyone again, and I think it is time to let her rip, Jack.
Let her rip.